The year is 1997. IBM's Deep Blue beats Garry Kasparov at chess, Hong Kong loses its relative independence to China, and movie tickets cost about $5. Blockbuster dominates the rental video space, charging $1 or $2 per movie, but tacking on substantial fees for returning movies late. As the story goes, $40 in late fees at Blockbuster annoyed Reed Hastings enough to start a new, subscription-based company built around mail-order movie rentals with no late fees, called Netflix. Users went online and selected a list of movies they wanted to see, and DVDs would get shipped directly to their homes. Back then, for $20 a month, Netflix subscribers could borrow up to 4 movies at a time, and whenever they sent one back, the next DVD in their queue would show up in their mailbox. By 2000, Netflix was already nipping at Blockbuster's heels, but it wasn't without problems. In those early years, their network of warehouses was pretty limited, so people didn't always get the next movie in their queue as promised, and sometimes there were long delays, especially for new releases. It was also an expensive business model, and Netflix struggled financially. That same year, Reed Hastings approached Blockbuster's CEO John Antioco with an offer to sell Netflix for $50 million. Antioco turned him down. Meanwhile, Blockbuster was busy charging their customers over $800 million in late fees. But here's the thing. Even though those late fees may have kept Blockbuster profitable in the early 2000s, they were also undermining the company's long-term future at the same time. Speaking as a customer, it always felt like Blockbuster was salivating at the chance to cash in, even if I returned a movie mere minutes past noon. In the end, by giving customers like me an unpleasant experience, Blockbuster was really just creating more and more opportunity for competition, even before digital technology made the in-person rental business obsolete. Over the next several years, competition from Netflix and Redbox start to eat away at Blockbuster's profits, and by 2005, the company had lost 75% of its market share. It's the beginning of the end. As new companies like Netflix create superior methods of bringing entertainment into people's homes, older companies like Blockbuster have to become more innovative themselves, or be destroyed by their competition. This all can sound very cutthroat, but most of the time it happens fairly organically. It's an evolutionary process, not an executioner's axe. And more importantly, this process is how our standards of living continually increase over time. By 2007, internet speeds and media encoding technology caught up with Reed Hastings' vision, and Netflix became a fully fledged streaming video service. This was right around the time I first signed up for Netflix, and back then, they just offered streaming as a bonus to their mail-order customers. But it quickly split off into its own business. And that's the moment you see tons of other companies trying to catch up. Netflix was busy crushing everybody in the home entertainment space. As of 2010, Netflix had what some of you might think of as a natural monopoly based solely on what's called first mover advantage. It figured out the technology and user experience before anyone else, so for one hot second, it had no true competitors and became a multi-billion-dollar giant. By the way, that same year, Blockbuster, once the indisputable king of home video entertainment, filed for bankruptcy. At this point, I'm sure it sounds like Netflix won the streaming wars, but remember what I said in my episode about The Boys. The idea that free markets inevitably lead to monopoly is a myth. Without government suppressing competition, Netflix had no way to maintain its temporary hold on the streaming market. Other companies caught up real fast. Hulu introduced Hulu Plus in 2010 with a substantial lineup of network TV shows, and would go on to add other features over the next several years like live TV and bundled premium channels like HBO and Starz. By 2011, Amazon rebranded its video-on-demand service to Amazon Instant Video, adding thousands of movies to its library through a deal with Epix, and making those available to anyone who was already a Prime subscriber. A unique aspect of Amazon's service was that you could not only watch movies and TV shows as part of your subscription, but purchase the rights to include them in your own streaming library. A short while later, Netflix and Amazon both announced that they're going to get into the business of producing original content exclusive to their platforms. Meanwhile, competing services like Vudu that allowed people to rent or buy movies and stream them at home and had been around for a while without much success were just starting to gain traction. Again, in 2010, Vudu got bought out by Walmart, which was already battling with Amazon in the broader retail market, but by 2014 had worked out deals with the digital locker systems Ultraviolet and Disney Movies Anywhere, which meant that their library of streaming content was not only massive, it was also possible to pair digital downloads with the physical DVDs and now Blu-rays that were already being sold in thousands of Walmart stores around the world. A restructured Blockbuster also launched a streaming service in 2011, but by that point it was really just too late. Consumers had spoken.
I have spoken.
Blockbuster got acquired by Dish Network, but the world moved on. By 2015, you have stuff like Shudder, PlayStation Vue, and Sling TV. By 2017, we got YouTube TV and Philo. By 2018, we started seeing more and more niche services like DC Universe, CBS All Access, and AMC Watch Now. And now we have Disney Plus. None of this came about by magic. And it's also not something that could have happened anywhere under any type of economic system. It's something that could only happen in a market economy. I say this because I want people to really grok how this works. With no central plan, no political decision-making, and no legislative controls on what people had to do with their resources, enterprising individuals like Reed Hastings offered consumers a service that they believed would be valuable. And those consumers, like you and me, were and are free to choose whether or not to use that service. Nobody forced it on us. We weren't going to be sent to jail if we opted out or refused to pay, and as a result, our choices actually mean something. Fortunately for Netflix, we all responded positively. For an infinitesimal moment in time, they had what a lot of people might have thought of as a monopoly over streaming media. But again, without any kind of top-down control, antitrust action, or restrictive regulations, that monopoly disappeared almost as soon as it formed. That's because in a free society, prices are a reflection of consumers' genuine preferences. And when they choose to flock to one product or service and make it profitable, that signal ripples through the economy. When that happens, other entrepreneurs and existing businesses see the demand and have an incentive to innovate even more, offering their own competing goods and services. As long as they're able to do that without getting political approval or navigating major restrictions, this kind of open competition is what drives rapid innovation and development. And that's how we end up with better living standards year after year. Now we are awash in streaming content, and the flood is unlikely to stop anytime soon. And I get it. Some people think this is going to create some kind of race to the bottom, where companies push the price down, create poor quality programming, and we go back to a world where we're all paying hundreds of dollars for content split across tons of different apps. But I don't see it. The renaissance of incredible shows and movies that we've seen on cable and streaming services in the last few years has permanently altered audience expectations for quality content. And it's a direct consequence of having an open market for entertainment. If Netflix feels the pressure to compete with Disney Plus by creating poor quality original programming, they're going to have a bad time. And they know it.
When people talk about Netflix, they talk about the shows that move them, and so that is way disproportionate in positive impact, even for the subscriber growth that you talked about, is those couple big memorable shows. But what we want to do is offer a variety. You don't want to watch the same thing every night as much as you like it. You want to try different things. And what we haven't seen is this, say, race to the bottom of your violent pornography kind of examples. Instead, we've seen, great viewing across a whole range, Black Mirror, and with the distribution of on demand, you can make these much bigger shows.
Mythology and catchy critical phrases aside, competitive markets almost never actually produce a race to the bottom in the products that they produce, in their cost to consumers, or even in terms of things like wages for employees. Furthermore, let's try to keep all this stuff in perspective. When I was a kid, a basic cable package cost around $30 a month. That was when the average wage in the US was about $8 an hour. So back then, 1 month of spotty, limited cable cost almost 4 hours of labor for the average person. Much, much more if you wanted channels like HBO or ESPN. Adjusting for inflation from $1985 to $2019, basic cable used to cost around $73 a month. The cost of a basic cable package without add-ons today is a heck of a lot lower than that, but it's still more than Netflix or Disney Plus. In fact, if you subscribe to every major streaming service at the same time, which I pretty much do, you'd still be paying way less money for a vastly superior product. And more importantly, the evolutionary process that brought us these kinds of improvements is still working just as hard as ever. Disney Plus is amazing. So is Netflix, and Hulu, and Amazon Prime, and they're all getting better and better. But it's also far from the end of the road. As long as politicians don't do something stupid and make it impossible for entrepreneurs to come up with new ways of delivering incredible entertainment to people's homes, the future looks really good. But right now, I've got some gargoyles to watch.
And we live again.